Nick, let's talk Hyatt Suites. One of the sweet things about Hyatt's award program is that it's possible to use your Hyatt rewards to book right into suites, often at really good value. But it can be confusing because there's not just one way of doing that. There's not just two ways of doing that. There's like four ways of doing that. And then there's different sort of permutations to each of those ways that can make it really confusing. So, can you walk us through how to do it?
Yeah, this is certainly a sweet aspect of the program, and I've got a sweet tooth. So let's take a look at how we can do this. Now, lots of programs do make it possible to book suites with points, but usually at poor value. Hyatt, on the other hand, has several different ways to do it, each of which can be attractive in the right circumstances or scenario. So let's take a very simple look at an example here. I'm going to share my screen so you can see what this looks like in real time as we do it. Okay. All right. So I did a simple search in Washington, D.C., March 25th to the 26th, and it doesn't really matter whether you have points toggled on or not in the first place, but I'm going to take a look specifically at the Thompson, Washington, D.C. So if we take a look at the rates for the Thompson in DC, we have a number of different rooms available with points, as well as a suite available with points, the Thompson suite, which I should back up here and say a standard room at this property is 18,000 points per night. It's a category 4 property. A standard suite then is 27,000 points per night at this category 4 property. And there are a couple of different ways to book the suite, but let's first just take a look at cash rates so you can get an idea of how much this property costs. So a standard room you see starts at $363 per night. That's a member advance purchase rate though. If you were to book the standard rate, it'd be $379 rather than one of the advanced purchase rates or member rates. And I'm bringing that up because that $379 value is going to come back in a minute. We'll take a look at that. And then if we look at the suites, the Thompson suite that we were looking at a moment ago with points, you'll see it's quite expensive,
Wow.
$1,300 to almost $1,400 a night. That's a pretty expensive suite. So there you have the cash rate. So if you're using points, if we toggle that on and we take a look again at that suite, 27,000 points for a room that sells for around $1,400 plus tax is pretty nice. That's a pretty attractive deal to begin with.
Right.
But
And
that's
that's
not
one
the
of the things I love, being able to book things that you wouldn't normally be willing to pay cash for, but you could do for a reasonable number of points or other rewards. I love that.
Yeah, me too. So you got a couple of other options here, though, in terms of using your Hyatt points and different ways to book the same suite. So we got, again, that 27,000 points that would cover the suite entirely, no additional taxes and fees when you're booking an award through Hyatt. So that's nice. You won't pay any resort fees when you're booking an award. So that's great. Standard suite points plus cash is one of the other options. So the way this option is supposed to work is 50% of the points price plus 50% of the cash rate for that particular suite. So you'll see 13,500 points. That's half the number of points that would be required for a standard suite. And $705 is actually just slightly more than half. We said it was about $1,400 at the standard rate to book this suite. Slightly more than half for the 50% of the cash rate. I don't really know why it's 705, but I'm pointing that out, the fact that it's not exactly half, very close, but not exactly half, because there's a common refrain that there's no IT in Hyatt, because for some reason the computer makes some mistakes every now and then, and sometimes the cash component isn't what it should be. Now, in this case, it's probably just a few dollars, 10, 15, $20 more than what it probably should be at 50%. But sometimes the difference is really big. And sometimes that can be a really good thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen times where the cash component is way less than it should be. It's maybe, half of the standard room rate instead of half of the cash suite rate. And in those cases, at times it can be an awesome value. But you have to look at it. You always have to pay close attention to it because sometimes it goes the other way, and sometimes it's way more than half of the suite's cash rate, and then it's an outrageously bad deal.
Yeah. So that really does vary. You got to keep a close eye on it. This can sometimes yield great value, like Greg said, when they sort of mistakenly priced it at half of a standard room rate. But other times it can be a bad deal. So that's a tricky one, but worth taking a look at. And then the third way to book a suite at this particular property is what they call this LP suite points upgrade. And so you'll sometimes see this and sometimes won't. And I should make that point about all three of these different options, that if one is available, it does not mean that all three will be available. Sometimes one is available and not others. So This just depends on the dates and the particular property. But this third way of booking a suite with points is the standard rate for the standard room. You'll remember that $379 was the standard rate, not the member or advanced purchase rate, but the standard rate, plus 6,000 points per night for a standard suite. And so this option can be particularly appealing in situations where the cash rate for a standard room is attractive. And in this case, $379 isn't terribly cheap, but also when you consider the fact that this room is selling for almost $1,400 plus tax, you're talking about spending $379 plus 6,000 points to keep $1,000 cash in your pocket, presumably. It could be attractive. It would be more attractive to me if the cash rate were even less, because sometimes you'll find a standard room rate can be quite reasonable, even though a suite is really expensive. So this option is a nice one to have for those times where a standard rate at the property is particularly low, because 6,000 additional points per night can be really nice in order to book a suite. And again, this is guaranteeing a suite in advance at the time of booking. So it's not a situation where you have to wait and see if maybe you'll get a suite later on down the line. Any of these three ways confirm that suite for you at the time of booking.
Yeah. And another time it occurred to me where you might want to do this is, let's say you're traveling for work and your employer's paying for the standard room rate, and you've got a few Hyatt points sitting around, then why not splurge and use your points to stay in a really nice suite, especially if you're traveling like with family maybe, and let the employer pick up that cash component without charging them any more than they would have paid anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So those are three awesome things that are nice to have. And again, it's worth knowing that sometimes those cash and point components can be, well, the cash component is sometimes incorrect. So you do have to keep a close eye on all of that. So those are three ways to book a suite using your Hyatt points, but there's also a fourth way. So the final way to book a suite with Hyatt that is of interest for those who have a lot of Hyatt elite nights is that there are milestone rewards where you'll get suite upgrade awards. So at 40 nights, for instance, you have the option to choose a milestone reward. So if you achieve 40 elite nights with Hyatt in the calendar year, you get the option to choose between a couple of different things. And one of those options is a suite upgrade award. And these suite upgrade awards are awesome because you can book then either the standard room or the standard, I'm sorry, you can book a standard room with points or with cash, or with points and cash, any way you prefer to do that, and then apply one of these suite upgrade awards. And the suite upgrade award will confirm you into a suite for a stay of up to 7 nights. So you could be booking 7 nights in that $1,400 a night suite and book just a standard room at either the standard cash rate or the standard award rate, and then apply one of these suite upgrade awards and confirm a suite. Again, that's assuming that a suite is available. But the nice thing about the suite upgrade awards is that the suite does not need to be available using points. It just needs to be available for sale. So that Thompson suite that we looked at a few minutes ago in our example, even if it weren't available using points, we said sometimes they aren't available with points, or sometimes it might be available with points and cash, but not with entirely points, etc. As long as they're selling a standard suite, so as long as you can book a standard suite at a cash rate, then you should be able to apply one of these suite upgrade awards. You'll have to contact Hyatt in order to do it, but that's really nice because in times when you want a suite, you can confirm that in advance at the time of booking with just a standard room. And the nice thing is also that you could transfer this to somebody else. You can gift this. You don't even have to keep it yourself. If you've got a family member that could use the suite and you'd like to help them out, then you can very easily gift one of these in your Hyatt account. And all you'll need is the person's email address and World of Hyatt number in order to transfer that over to them. So very simple in order to do that as well. So it makes you able to share the love and
Yeah.
share a suite.
It's also a good reason to make friends with people who have these suite upgrade awards, because they might be willing to share them with you.
Yeah. So there's 4 different ways to book a suite with Hyatt. Again, entirely with points, with half the number of points for a standard suite and half the amount of cash for that suite, based on the nightly rate, the standard rate. There's the LP points upgrade where you're paying essentially the cash rate for a standard room, the standard rate for a standard room plus 6,000 points per night, or using one of your suite upgrade awards that you earn as a milestone benefit. You can pick those up at 40, 50, 60 nights, and all of the 10-night increments beyond that. It's one of the options for the choice benefits at each 10-night milestone after 40. So that's nice because you can accumulate a bunch of these potentially if you stay at Hyatt a lot and then use them to confirm a suite.
Okay, so that's really cool. So if I'm remembering all these options right, we can book suites entirely with points when available. We can book suites with the points plus cash option, which is often, or I'd even say usually, a bad deal, but every now and then can be a really good deal. And then there's the third one is booking the basically the basic room rate and paying 6,000 points per night to secure a suite, and that can often be a good deal. And finally, using these suite upgrade certificates, if you can get them, suite upgrade awards, to apply to a base room that you booked, either with points or cash, and get in a suite that way. Did I
Yeah,
did I get that summary right, Nick?
nailed it, Greg. Well done. Yes, very good. Now, if you have questions, please let us know in the comments and we'll do our best to answer those and address those. And don't forget to give us a like and leave us some feedback. We always love to hear from you in the comments.